literally in the front door of the beautiful Century Resort, and I must say that the architecture is out of this world. And I think that they have really incorporated everything African to put down this edifice, and it's beautiful. For that, I commend them. However, that's not the reason why I'm here. I'm here, and I think it's no news, a National Economic Forum. That's why we're here. And with me to talk about this is a chartered economist, John Gachi, who is also a lecturer at University of Cape Coast, and my own brother, Sidney Casely Hayford, who's a chartered accountant and also a policy analyst. And they understand this more than I do. And as you know, I like to take things from the layman point of view. So that's where we're going to go. And I'm going to start with Sidney. So Sidney, now I sell Yokogari at Atimpoku, and there's a National Economic Forum. What does it mean to me?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Let me come to my chartered economist. The same question. Now I sell kenke in Kokomlemle and fried fish, and today there's a National Economic Forum. What does it mean to me?
Well, for such a person, it only makes sense to him when the outcome reflects in addressing the issues for which we are gathered here. For example, our economy is going through some challenges, exacerbated very much in terms of the exchange rate volatility, which actually dovetail into inflation. This affects the business of the ordinary business person in town. Therefore, since we are gathered here because of some of these challenges, I think the only time that this will be meaningful to such a person is when the issues that we agree upon here are carried through and they reflect in these fundamentals for him or her.
Sidney, you see, driving up, I was really trying to find what is the silver bullet. All these guys gathered here, and good brains, we've gathered a lot of good brains here today. Are they going to say something new that we already don't know? I don't know. How does it work?
Yes, they will. And before I answer that, let me go back to my initial blunt comment, because I was hoping we would carry it through, so I would come back and explain something. You see, at this level, we are talking structural alignment of a budget. We are talking about debt sustainability. We are talking about capping budget ceilings. We are discussing opportunities of increased revenue from different resources. We are talking about ring fencing infrastructural funds. Now, all of that, when John and I sit down and we talk about it, we understand what we are talking about. It makes a lot of impact for us. But when you take ordinary Aquile on the street and you tell her you're having a National Economic Forum and that government's debt is out of stretch and it needs to be done, the first thing she'll ask you, hey, what do they want me to do? All right? And that is the crux of running a country and doing things, because at the end of the day, the important thing is not that we don't care, it's just that there are levels of communication, there are levels of discussion, there are levels of solutions, and it is difficult to explain some of these solutions to some persons. The local person who is using local resource material in order to be able to build a product or deliver a service only is impacted when the cost of some of its basic raw material sources or its basic services or its basic providers, those costs go up. And at that level, their impact is mainly in transport, electricity, water, telephone bills. Any of those things go up, they start stressing. So we are in this particular arena and at this level, we are only trying to come to a point where government is not going to be increasing these utilities willy-nilly and burdening the local producer, which is the impact that is going to happen. Whilst those of us who aspire to maybe a different service sector in a consultancy realm, in a hydro dam construction realm, we are more impacted by a lot of these issues in a very, very big way. Because where government cannot go out and borrow money at cheap enough interest rates, it impacts those of us who are actually going to deliver that service. So that's the way I look at it when it comes to this particular issue. So now, what was your question again?
What's the silver bullet? Is there anything new that's going to come up that we don't already know?
There are going to be a lot of new things. Everybody I've spoken to who is a moderator or a facilitator in this particular event is very clear that they are not interested in the everyday as usual solutions to the problems. They want to talk about implementation. They are all here very, very experienced. I don't think that this country has ever gathered in one place far more minds who are knowledgeable about the economy, experienced enough, who have held key positions over the time. And we are going to get the benefit of all of that coming through. There is a continuity stream from one person to the next. So even when you look at central governorship and how it has worked, Paul Akwa is here, the previous central governor. Wampa is here, current governor. Joe Abbey is here, former bank governor. You are going to get an opportunity that where one left off and has probably not been in touch with the events as they unravel, somebody else has taken over that mantle and can carry on the thought process of why didn't we continue doing this and what informed a change in direction at that one point in time. So we're going to get the benefits of historical experience, we're going to get the benefit of economic experience, and we're going to get the benefit of business sense as we sit down, as we're doing this now. The only one thing that might probably dislocate what we're going to try and do here is that the politicians will not have the stomach to implement what it is that we're coming up with.
That's where I bring John in. John, you see, the idea is fantastic. I mean, I'm one person who's always championed that. I don't believe we need a split in the country with the level of development, with the need to be some togetherness up until a certain point. However, we're doing all this today, but at the end of the day, we're going to hand it over to a very divisive political front to say, go and implement it. So what then, from then onwards?
Well, I think we need to look at the immediate first. I think those who are in government now, at least they have about more than 2 years to run the country. They have indicated quite clearly that they are committed to seeing a transformation of the country. To achieve this, a lot of things are coming on board. Even if they pick just 3 and implement, and that is going to affect the core structure of our economy, and that can bring some fruit of transformation. We have made a stride forward. So that is the attitude that I think we need to actually adopt for this particular program. Let's look at the immediate, the people who are organizing this. Are they willing that any new thing that comes up in the discussion that we have agreed on, they are willing to implement at least some of them, and that will take us forward. We have just listened to a lot of speakers. We were surprised that they are speaking the way they do. They are very frank, open, and very committed to what they were saying. Listen to what the Bank of Ghana said in his conclusion. He said, we don't want the economy of shopping malls. We don't want the economy of shopping malls. He is thinking that if we can pick some 5 items that we want to concentrate our effort to add to the commodities that we are exporting, that will be a clear effort of diversification. That is his thought. Look at the level from which that particular suggestion is coming from. Even if we pick 3 out of his suggestion and implement, that is going to go a long way to affect the transformation agenda of the country. So for me, I think we can derive some benefit even in terms of implementation. even if they are not able to implement all the issues that will come up, the very few that will be implemented will have a good effect on the country.
Sydney, have we developed the culture of solving problems from the middle? Because, you see, when you're solving problems in the middle, then that's when all your technical things come in. But here we are, and, you know, Adumasa is only 20 minutes drive up the road. And I bet you the government hasn't got a clue how many people are there because they don't have birth certificates. Now we are making all these policies. How many people are we even targeting to help? It's a guesswork. So, I mean, if we haven't been able to just give an ID card to every citizen, what are we doing here with all these indicators and shock absorbers and barriers? What are we doing?
There are more than just simple birth certificate problems. I like to go away from this challenges matter. We have problems. But managing the macro environment is also a problem. Managing our debt is a problem. You just have to figure out which one is more critical than the other and which one should I fix first. And then I can turn my attention to the other small detail down the line. You might say that we haven't given our birth certificate, so we don't know how many people. Probably. However, there are certain population indicators that have told us over the past that there is a trend, and where we've been able to manage and identify that trend and plot it properly, we are able to estimate to a fine degree exactly how many people we need to cater for. If you remember when we did the population census in 2010, everybody thought that the numbers were going to come out something really different. But we came up with close to 25 million, which is what we had been projecting all throughout the time, that Ghana's growth rate was about 1.5% to 2% per annum. And if you extrapolated that, you came to roughly 25 million at 2010. So we didn't have shocks as much as we thought we would. However, you see, when you need money to do some infrastructure, when you need money to build a big road, when you need money to be able to build a dam, and you can't go out and borrow that money at commercially viable rates or concessionary rates that will enable you to do what you need to do, you have a far bigger problem on your hand.
See,
because
let me come in. You see, I really agree with what you're saying. But all I'm saying is, if 2014, Ghana cannot register every child that is born, and there's technicalities there, are we not jumping the gun and solving problems in the middle rather than, I mean, when we're talking about broadening the tax net, but we don't even know where the citizen is to go and tax them.
You have spoken about one very simple thing, one very complex thing. The simple thing about registration of births and deaths, it doesn't really require any major solution of finances. It's a matter of government going out there and stating very clearly that this is a communication challenge. It's got nothing to do with the fact that we don't have the systems. If you go to the births and deaths registry today, they can pull you up on a computer, but you need to get the data in. And getting the data in is just by informing the public that there is a penalty for not doing so, and you must do so. Now, if we have a national ID card system, so that you cannot go to school if you don't have an ID card, then parents will know that they have to register their child in order to get them an ID card so they can go to school. This is how the Western countries sort it out. It's tied to services, it's tied to grants, it's tied to aid. So if you don't do it, you don't get that benefit, and that's one of the starting points. When you talk about taxation and taxing people appropriately, that's a whole different ballpark. And that's a far more complicated issue. And especially where we have close to 70% of our people in the informal sector, you've got a huge issue that you have to address. So that is a far bigger challenge than some of the simpler ones. When you talk about...
Let me take a break here, and then when I come back, I still want to address it. All I'm trying to say is that I just feel it's such a basic and important fundamental that I don't see why we skip it and try and solve bigger issues when such a basic issue is there and we haven't done it. Well, hello, I'm still back on my fundamental problem. I need these boys to solve it before they build me a dam. But should I let John have a bite on this cherry?
John,
John, what do you have to say? I just think it is such a basic issue that by the time we get here, everybody here should have had an ID saying that I'm a Ghanaian and I belong to Ghana before we move into all these shock absorbers and indicators. Because at the moment, all these overspend, they can tell you, oh, I spent on 20,000 people over here. Who's there to know that there were 20,000 people over there? We don't even have it.
Well, I think there are fundamental challenges in trying to plan for the economy. I think as far back as 6 years ago, we have embarked on a national identification process. It seems to me that along the line, we are not very much aware that the national identification process is supposed to be the basic input.
Is it important?
Very important. That's the thing I'm building.
Okay.
So if we were to identify the national identification process is supposed to be the primary database for everything in the country, then we would have attached much more importance to it. Now, there is right now some kind of conflict also going on. You hear SNIT doing biometric registration, you hear National
is doing their own,
they do their own thing. Now, because we have not identified that national identification is a basic base from which economic, social, fiscal, everything should be based on. And for some of us who happen to attend school outside the country, you couldn't even get your index number if you don't have the national identification card. You could not open a bank account if you don't have national identification card. There are a lot of things you cannot do without national identification card. So if we attach policy linkages with the national identification system, then it will force us to attach much more importance. Right now, the National Identification Authority doesn't have that financial muscle to do the things that we expect it to do. And even ourselves, when you go to the bank, in fact, some of the banks are not even accepting national identification card as a card for processing document. So these are the things I think we should do gradually to get there. But we need to distinguish that from why we are here. We are here because we know that we are in economic trouble. What are the things that we should put in place that will lead us out of this trouble? I believe that is why we are here. National development planning should embody all these issues of registering national identification.
That's what I was saying. Can we do that without a database?
But we cannot.
Can we do this effectively without a database?
Let John land.
But the point is, you see huge deficit steering on your face. You see exchange rate volatility distorting everything you have gained over the years. Will you go back to do registration, and before you get idea about what you should do for the country? Definitely no. You will need to fix this problem. When you fix this problem, they give you better space to even address these issues more holistically and in a manner that will have a far-reaching effect on the other aspect of the economy. I think so. We shouldn't actually overemphasize.
Don't underplay what we are doing.
What we are doing here.
But you see, in doing all this as well, don't forget one thing. In any situation that you are caught in, you have to do what's here first. We are no near fata. Inti national ID card emphasis can be fear. It's not going to enable us to raise a loan. It's not going to enable us to do a huge project. It's important, but it is not as important as trying to get the macro environment resolved. The macro environment has never been addressed in this country. Okay, we've had problems where we have said that the numbers that we are getting are not right. We've taken grant money. We've supported the Ghana Statistical Service. We seem to now be comfortable to rely on what the GSS says. So we are beginning to at least now do some analysis and extrapolation as we go forward. We are comfortable with the fact that our GDP growth is so much. We don't question it as much as we used to some time ago. In fact, we actually look forward to getting those GDP figures at the, in the middle of the middle of the month following. So we are in a position now to at least say that if we need to do any detailed analysis and calculation, we will depend on those numbers. And that is a fundamental and very important thing. And it was done for purpose, because when you're working with international countries, you're working with international rating agencies, they cannot come and sit down and talk to you and I like we're doing now. They look at what numbers we put out, they look at what the IMF endorses, they look at what the World Bank says is right, and they make their judgment based on those numbers. So you needed to get that working, and I think on that score we are okay. Now, when it comes to basic statistics and data, I say that there's some information which is government's domain. You leave that to government. But there's also an opportunity for private sector to step in and do certain, put out certain indicators and certain numbers and do certain research, you know, in order to be able to establish exactly the size of markets and be able to attract partnerships in order to make it work. But when somebody is coming to do business in the country, they ask themselves, what is the political risk? Where is my business risk? Where is my financial risk? And where is my labor risk? When you have a militant group like a Boko Haram in your midst, they need to make a decision whether or not they can take the chance of sending staff into that territory and whether there will be major upheaval. So you look at that. You look at the stability of the country, and you decide that, yes, this is a place that we can be. They won't just wake up overnight and just step into the country. They will go, they will come, they will, you know, talk to people, they will discuss, they will ask. It takes about maybe 4 or 5 years, depending on what kind of business they're coming to do, before they come in. In the meanwhile, they are tracking your macro indicators. They are looking at where the strictures are. They are looking to see where it could possibly be derailed. And they are reading what Moody's is saying, what Standard & Poor's is saying, and they are reading what everybody else is trying to put together. So it is an issue at this stage for us to really get down and fix this problem. And that's what we have to try and do this time round.
John, I know John has to go, but
we both have to go. But you know, let's see how much more we can do before we wrap up.
A little more time before I let my guest go. Yeah, I let my guest go. You see, implementation has been a cancer. It's almost as if somebody is taking us to Antwerp to say, if you implement anything, you're going to die. And the basics of things we haven't implemented. And we still have a divided front. So after all is said and done, you know, how do we implement?
I think I made that point quite clear already. Whatever we agreed upon now, the onus lie on the government in power today to start the implementation. Those that they can start now, they start now. And then the other ones will be in the blueprint. Anybody that comes will have to follow. We have seen examples in the country, even though we are polarized, but we have seen programs started by President Kufuor being continued and enhanced by the current government. President Kufuor did the same thing with the previous government. John, so we have some examples.
Things like adding value. The governor of the bank said, look, let's export 5 more things that we haven't paid attention to. Everybody knows the structures we have for cocoa. If you have even if you know have a cassava marketing board, you could make more money out there. I mean, we've known this since.
Yeah, see, we know all these things, but there are new things coming up. You know, finance minister talk about institutions. Either we are not aware that the EXIM banks set by individual countries were being used to promote their exports into our country. The idea has now come that, look, we also need something like Trade Commission. We also need our own kind of EXIM institution and other institutions that promote trade that we have not put in place. So these new things are coming. We do know that we need to diversify, but we have not set an agenda to keep the process going. I think we are now awakening up to the task. We are now ready to do the things that we need to do to actually get into real diversification. That's what I have seen right now.
John, we haven't done any of the old things that could have catapulted us to anything. Everybody's talked about palm. Malaysia took palm from here. Mauritius has nothing, so they built their intelligence and became a good country. Singapore. We've known this since God. So what new thing are they going to say today, and then all of a sudden, forget about the palm, forget about this, forget about that, let's implement this and we're going to be something.
Before I leave,
yes,
the point is, as a people, we need to tell ourselves that no matter how we have forgotten where we are going, if we are waking at a point in time, let us see that point in time as the beginning of new things to happen. We do know all the problems of the country. In fact, we do know some of the things that could be done to solve the problem, but we have not been doing it. Now that we have awoken, we know that we need to transform our economy, and there should be a particular way that we should do it. Why can't you say that we are going to put all our energies together and we shall begin? I think that is the thing that I want us to focus on.
How do we get Aquile in Kukumemle to buy into this forum? Let me take a break here, and then when I come back, I will continue. Hello and welcome back. And as you can see, my panel has changed. John had to rush because he's actually, I think, heading one of the sub-meetings which is going on, so he had to rush. But my brother Kofi Kapitos sat in his seat. He has the same concerns as me. I still have Sydney, my brother, here. And the question to Sydney was that, Sydney, for this to go on, everybody needs to buy into it. So how does Aquile, buy into it?
They don't all necessarily have to buy into it. Some people will always be passive. Some people will always be negative. Some people see this as a political initiative, and so it doesn't matter what you say, they will not take it in. The critical thing is it has to work. Something has to work, and when that something starts working, even those who are negative, when they see the signs, will tap into it. They're not going to say, because I didn't agree with it, so I don't want anything to do with importation of this or that. Once it's working, everybody else will fall in line. So the key thing is that there will be some policy direction. There will be some strategies as to how to get things done and what should be done first and second. But I'm making this point very clearly. If the politicians don't have the backbone to be able to implement what we decide on doing here, they first of all wasted our money, they've wasted our time, and we are going to have another such forum somewhere down the line in order to be able to get things done. This is all about political will. It is not about the solutions. We have the solutions. We've been tracking all these projects and all these problems and all these constrictions for a long time. So we are not in a position to say we don't have a clue what to do next. If the politicians don't accept that they have to at least give up some power and some control and allow the economics of this country to work, we're not going to go anywhere with this.
Kofi, welcome to the show. You've been here since morning. What's been your general impression about it?
Well, as the impressions, as you put it, I guess is good, is positive. If you saw the attendance, even as before the president came in, it was quite a large number. You keep asking the question, or you keep hammering on something. What happened to the fundamentals? And I agree with you 100%. We are in a country that we don't even believe in data. We believe in hearsay, ake. You take that to anybody for him to borrow you or lend him money, he's not going to believe in it. I happened to be part of Kotoko at one point as a marketing director. And unfortunately, a team like Kotoko did not even have a data as to how many supporters Kotoko has. So when you went to any marketing person that would you put your money behind us, the first thing they ask you is, show me the numbers. If we don't have the data, and which something that you were saying in terms of the identification of every resident, I will not even say identification of Ghanaians, because we know who Ghanaians are, but we should be able to know who lives in Ghana legally, as we experienced when we lived outside. But the question is the process. There's duplications, and it's not about doing what is called the biometrics. It's just basically knowing the numbers and how are we going to move from there. Look, this forum, like Sydney just said, if the politicians, and I will even say the other politicians, if government in power does not believe in this, whatever that they put together today till Saturday, and say that damn the consequences, I believe in going left. If I go left and it works for the people of Ghana, I'll take the credit for it. If it doesn't, I will take the blame for it. That is what I think we lack in this part of the world, is the commitment and the will as to listen, I'm in charge, I'm the herd. Me and a few people think we've seen something here, we think this is going to work for us. Let's champion it. Let's see how we can get it done and done properly.
Kufuor did the same era. In the Kufuor era, there was a forum. There was a forum on also on education as to whether we're going to go 3-4 years. At the end of the day, they decided, look, we're not going to take your advice. We're going to go our own way. What can we fall back on to say, based on this, there's hope here? What can we fall back? What track record? What can we fall back and say, based on A, B, C, D, I think this will work?
No, I think you are sounding too fatalistic. Don't push. Let's push to that point.
Okay.
Maybe some of you have not lived as long as some of us have now, and that's the advantage of age and experience and history. This country has been through and has sank to far less rock bottom than we are today. There was a time in this country where you couldn't buy petrol, you had to queue. I don't know whether you remember that.
Yeah.
There was a time when you couldn't buy petrol because your number plate was either ending as an odd number or an even number. You couldn't buy fuel. There was a time when we had to queue to buy
bread.
Gary.
Buy bread.
All right.
Yeah,
So we've
bread.
been through a lot, and we went so far down that Ghana was written off completely. Ghana was a complete basket case. But today, I'm sitting in probably one of the most beautiful resorts in this country. It is akin to anything I've seen in South Africa, Dubai, anywhere else. The quality of the rooms are at an impeccable standard. It's virtually on the level of a 4-star hotel, and it could probably be more. But they have hope. They've invested, and they've got a huge forum going on today, and they will, and they've had others, and they will continue to have more. So it is not as dead as you're trying to anticipate. Where we are today, maybe we could have done this 3-4 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. But we're doing it today, luckily, where, like I said before, all of those who have history and knowledge and experience in the economic sector of Ghana are here. So they are coming in and blending with those of us who are beginning to yell more and more and pushing the envelope of accountability and transparency forward. With a lot of them in their age, especially during those who are in the PNDC time, like PV Obing and stuff like that, it wasn't a matter of discussing or debating. They told you what was going to be done, and you just took it. Now, they're having to look at it from our point of view, that you've got to have a buy-in, you've got to have a discussion, you've got to have a liking of minds in order to be able to get something forward. So we are probably at the cusp of a change. But that change mechanism, that change pivot, hinges on our politics. And we need to be able to unravel that so we can go forward.
Kofi, the major opposition party has boycotted it for one reason. They didn't have enough time. They feel that, you know, when Bawumia came up with solutions for the government, he was rubbished. So one would say the same government who wrote the policy has now come to see, you know, how they can better their policy, or how do you see it?
Well, you see, like I'm saying, just like any other presidency, the president is the president in charge. Or either they say what, the opposition has the right whether to show up or not. But to me, that is not why I want to contribute to this conversation. What I'm saying is, Sydney made a statement, looking at this beautiful place. The question is from the consumer's point of view. Is it affordable, even the middle class and above? That is where Ghana is at the moment. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. If you look at the thatch roofs, I'm even amazed to see this in Ghana. But the question is it affordable? In other jurisdictions, don't get me wrong, even the average worker could plan, let's say, a year from now that December, me and my family would like to come and have a weekend here. Here, even the chief executive or the chief director, based on the official income, which I know because it's pegged at 36,000 Ghana cedis a year. Okay, looking at that, how is he going to afford a weekend with the family here. I'm talking about the chief director. I'm not talking about the middle income person. I'm talking about officials, the level 25 on the government pay structure.
So you're talking about the gap between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
But Nana, you see, as much as I love Kofi when he does these socialist
He's not a
paradigms,
socialist. I'm a
the
capitalist.
socialist
I live
paradigm,
in America. I'm a capitalist.
I live and I say, look, there are certain things that I can't afford, but I don't begrudge anybody for it. I can't afford to spend a weekend in the Holiday Inn or the Movenpick Hotel or the Golden Tulip. If I do so, it'll put a big dent in my pocket, but I'm not going to begrudge it. There are other lower level, mid-level hotels where I can go comfortably and be happy with. So I won't come here on my own. I can't come to the Royal St. John and spend a weekend here. I don't have that kind of resources. But I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the fact that it's here. And it symbolizes a growing class in the country. And that growing class enables others who are coming from outside to admire it and also want to come here. What they come here to spend doesn't stay at the Royal St. John. They come to stay at the Royal St. John. There are lots of places to go to, lots of money to be spent. There are fruit sellers all along the road. They will benefit from a trickle down of all of these issues. So for me, that's fine. But do you want to address the MPP issue?
The MPP issue. Can you?
Kofi doesn't want to talk about the MPP issue. I don't mind talking about the MPP issue.
Sure.
And I said on air, and I repeat that, if I was a member of the NPP, I would not come myself. For one very simple reason. My opponent is in governance. He's running the country. I want to dislodge him. I want to come and run the country. Then he has, in their opinion, created, and in my opinion as well, caused a mess in the economic management. And I attribute all the problems that we have today to the cash deterioration from the 2012 elections and where we are in the system today. Now, we're at that point. And then you say to me, can you please come and let us talk about it and come and help me to see if we can find a fix?
Bring me all your good ideas.
I won't do it. Even if I came, even if I came,
in the United States, Obama was cornered.
Sure.
There was a credit crunch not too long ago. That has now stopped the Republicans to say that, oh, we want to contribute. You see, this thing that Ghanaians...
But they didn't contribute, Kofi. That's the point. The Republicans took a clear stand. No. Took a clear stand on that issue, that all the rules and regulations Obama brought into it, they tried to stop every single one of it in Congress as best as they could.
But they passed
the bill because they couldn't win it.
No, it's not a matter they couldn't win it, because other Republicans realized that it was the good of the nation. And I mean, I give it a typical example. There's a campaign reform in the United States put together by McCain and Feingold. Can we see that in Ghana? I wish we can see that in Ghana, whereby it doesn't matter, because it's about building Ghana. I don't care which side of the aisle you are. To the end of to my best interest as a representative, that whether you are voted for you or not, after election, it's not about the people that voted for you. It's about the whole constituency.
But like you said, Kofi, it's a choice. It's a choice.
No, I don't, like I said, I don't blame the MPP. That's why I don't want to talk on their behalf. But what I am saying is, this idea that it is something that I think we should nip it in the bud, to me, let's assume...
If it's winner take all.
I believe in diversity in progress. I say it's diversity. I say it's diversity.
UK, the same thing. Germany.
No, Kofi, hold on. Germany is not first past the post. Germany is a proportional representative.
Proportional representative by majority.
And it works far better than anywhere else, which is where we should be heading.
The Kenisa is better. The one in Israel.
No. The Israel system doesn't work.
What you said is interesting and it's real. In fact, that if the MPP had the silver bullet, they're not going to come here and say, that's the silver bullet,
Absolutely
you take
not.
it. Because as soon as you take it and we go to the polls, they're going to vote you to keep you in power.
Sure.
And all these monies they've been spending for the last 6 years is so that they get a cherry at the, bite at the cherry.
Yes, and
so
the government is not going to stand on the platform and say, oh, we implemented the MPP idea for resolving the CD depreciation crisis, and look how it's working. Kudos, thank you, MPP. They're not going to say that. They'll claim it. So I don't have any problems with.
So to a larger picture, for such forums to work, do we need to change the larger political platform?
It depends on what the outcome of the forum is. You see, when you place the agenda where you have it now, for the NPP, there's going to be a bit of a political fallout, because just like Kofi is thinking, it's for the good of the country. It's a national issue. And I'm sure he's not in the minority in saying so. I'm sure there are other like-minded persons with him who will also say the same thing. So the MPP has to now go and face the fallout. Certainly, there's not going to be many people on the NDC side who will applaud them. Some of their members within their own party will say, look, you should have gone. So they have a challenge. So on the way it was done, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't issue. So they have made a decision, and they're going to have to manage the political fallout. It's entirely up to them. But what they have to say is, I would rather manage that political fallout than come and sit in a forum where I'm going to tacitly bring up my ideas for somebody else to take them, run with them, and claim them as theirs, and therefore belittle my input in whatever forum we did. So it's a trade-off, and they've made a choice.
I think what the MPP was saying that is, listen, whatever ideas that you want us to come and contribute, we've already put them out there. Okay, i.e. what Bawumia's lectures and other people has actually contributed. But the question is, when it was given genuinely, openly, without any quote-unquote political backlash or whatever, I mean, the people that the advice was going to even laughed at it. Some people even actually insulted. So maybe I think on that point, maybe they have, because what's the point? It's like you talking and talking and talking and talking, and the person doesn't listen. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, to me, I'd rather ask whether NDC, because these things, if we keep doing it, I don't see when are we going to be able to become like the people that we go and borrow money from.
On the subject of when, I mean, so are we going to come out with, let's say, from now to the next 2 years, this is what we're going to do? Is that what's going to...
I don't know. I don't know yet. We haven't got to that stage in the whole procedure. We are breaking out into thematic groups now. We're going to talk about our own little sections. I'm involved in the macroeconomic stability group. So we're going to come up with solutions for how we think we could fix it, and some policy direction for government. And then when we've done that, we might probably have to fix deliverables and deliverable timelines, which would be the normal way to do a project evolution so that you can get some closure. I don't know.
Are we going to get some of the hard things, like Mugabe said, look, in the next 5 years, nothing leaves my soil if you don't add value to it? I mean, are we going to have those drastic things, or is it going to be all la-di-da, la-di-da, you know?
Well, I don't believe in Mugabenomics, so...
Well, but that's the way out.
It's a dictatorship. I'm not going there.
Well, if you haven't developed, how are you going to move?
But, I mean, the advanced countries have always used sanctions and other things to, you know, make our decision a little bit diluted. So what I'm saying is, listen, Ghana is a sovereign country, period. Okay, the same as the United States and UK and other places. Whatever that we think is good for Ghana, I think that is what we should decide. As a nation, we might have some backlash, but if it works, wonderful. But we need to make that decision as Ghanaians. That, yes, I don't care what somebody who sits somewhere in Washington, D.C., somewhere in Europe says. To me, doing this for the benefit of the people, if that's what's going to get me, feed every Ghanaian. I mean, we did Operation Feed Yourself, regardless.
Under a dictatorship.
But it went. Regardless.
Under a dictatorship.
All time will allow me, folks, but tomorrow we'll be back here to find out what the first day went like. But hey, there is silver lining ahead. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and we should all buy into this thing. And whatever comes out of here by Saturday, we pray and hope that leadership will take it and champion it, and it will all be in the interest of Ghana. Folks, thank you very much. And as I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thanks for watching.